So, have you ever found yourself just totally stuck in a conversation that feels numbingly repetitive? You know the ones. Dull, maybe a little awkward. We have absolutely all been there. You're nodding along, exchanging the exact same pleasantries you exchanged a literal 1,000 times before, and secretly, you're just wishing you could hit fast forward. Well, today, we're going to fix that. Welcome to our explainer on the mechanics of charismatic conversation. We're going to unpack the absolute secret to transforming ordinary, everyday interactions into incredibly memorable moments.
But to understand how to fix the problem, we first have to figure out why it happens. Like, why do most of our daily conversations feel so incredibly predictable? Well, it's mostly because we constantly second-guess ourselves. Whether you're making small talk with a boss in the break room or sitting across from someone on a really high-stakes first date, you're probably terrified that terrible things will happen if you go off script. So what do? We stick to safe, boring topics because stepping outside of them just feels like this enormous social risk.
To break out of this cycle, here is our roadmap for today's explainer. First, trapped in the frame. Then, follow the shiny thing, open the circle, imply friendship fast, and finally, the charismatic leader.
Okay, let's start with number 1, trapped in the frame. This is the root cause of it all.
This root cause is something called the frame. Think of the frame as the unspoken rules and societal templates that sort of silently govern our interactions. It basically dictates what we feel allowed to say. Now, don't get me wrong, the frame exists for a very good reason. It gives us a safe, mutual baseline. It's exactly why we start by asking things like, "Oh, where are you from?" or "What do you do for a living?" We need some kind of mutual understanding to kick things off. But ultimately, while it provides that safety net, the frame acts as a massive restrictor on our true personalities.
And here is the crazy contrast. Sticking to that standard frame just leaves you anxious and boxed in. But surprisingly, breaking out of it actually makes you way more likable. Take this great example from the source material. An interviewer was talking to the lead actors of the new Blade Runner movie. Now, instead of pretending to be this huge sci-fi expert, she playfully admitted she had never even seen the original classic film. Normally, that is a wildly embarrassing break of the professional frame, right? But by just owning it, and even joking about knitting sweaters on set, she set this hilarious, engaging tone that the actors absolutely loved.
So, if escaping the frame is the big secret to charisma, how exactly do we pull it off without making things, well, completely weird? The source material gives us a core framework with 3 highly specific, really memorable tactics. Let's break them down.
Tactic number 2, follow the shiny thing. Basically, noticing the obvious.
So the shiny thing is simply anything in the environment that naturally grabs your attention. To show how this works, the source highlights a pretty brilliant anecdote featuring Ryan Gosling. He was doing a remote interview, and the interviewer's video background looked completely chaotic. It literally looked like he was broken down on the side of a dirt road. Instead of politely ignoring it and sticking to the standard rigid PR frame, Gosling just smiled and asked, "Are you in a volcano?" It immediately shattered the boring template and created this incredibly fun, memorable exchange.
You know, we're constantly taught that noticing these shiny things is a distraction. But honestly, pretending the obvious doesn't exist ruins the chance for a genuinely fun interaction. Think about it. If you're on a super dry Zoom meeting and a cat strolls through your coworker's background, or you catch a glimpse of an awesome travel photo on someone's phone, mention it. Explicitly bringing up these little oddities instantly transforms a robotic, going through the motions exchange into a real human one.
Moving on to tactic 3, open the circle. This is all about including the ignored.
Here is a tough truth. Standard conversational frames can actually be brutally exclusive. When we're at a coffee shop, we place our order with the barista, but we entirely ignore the person standing literally 2 feet away from us in line. Or when we go to a job interview, we hyper-focus on the hiring manager and just pretend the receptionist or the other candidates don't even exist. We do it all the time. But actively opening the circle to acknowledge those people, even with just a simple compliment, is a profoundly charismatic move.
And there's another Ryan Gosling story that brilliantly illustrates this in action. During an interview where a woman was standing there holding up a phone camera, the standard frame dictated that the camera operator should be treated as basically invisible furniture. But Gosling actively broke that frame. He asked to turn the camera around, introduced her to the viewers by saying, "This is Iris, you're your MVP, Iris," and actively brought her into the fun. Acknowledging the unacknowledged like that, it immediately makes everyone in the room feel great.
And tactic 4, imply friendship fast. The secret to building deep connections.
Now, this tactic requires a bit of a mental shift. You really need to ask yourself, What would I say if this person was a close friend? The goal here is to start interacting with acquaintances as if that closer bond has already been established. Now, you don't have to be overly familiar or boundary crossing, obviously, but you do drop those rigid formalities that keep people at arm's length.
A super powerful way to apply this is right in the workplace. If you see a coworker visibly frustrated or sad, the standard professional frame tells you to just look away, stick to the meeting agenda, and pretend you didn't notice a thing. But implying friendship fast means breaking that cold corporate frame. You might simply say, "Hey, seems like you might be going through a hard time. Do you mind if I ask how you're doing?"
The crucial takeaway here is that most conventional frames have absolutely no space for human emotions. We're expected to just check them at the door. But the source material observes that breaking the professional frame to actually show some empathy works wonders, mostly because people secretly want to open up. By intentionally making space for those emotions, your relationships instantly bypass that superficial small talk level and go much, much deeper.
Finally, Section 5, the charismatic leader, bringing it all together.
When you master this, you become what the source calls the charismatic leader. This is the person who actually notices the reality of a situation. Picture a high-stakes Zoom call where a child, let's call her a Scarlett, suddenly wanders into the camera view, holding a toy. Usually, everyone freezes and pretends it's not happening, right? Well, the charismatic leader is the one who stops the boring business jargon, asks Scarlett's name, playfully asks where the toy unicorn should go on the shelf, and just makes the parent feel totally at ease. They also notice the spouse standing awkwardly at a party, or that sad coworker we mentioned. They simply acknowledge reality.
It all really boils down to this. You become the instant leader of any interaction when you have the courage to say the thing everyone else was already thinking but thought they weren't allowed to say. Taking that minor social risk to point out the obvious, to include the excluded, or to show a little empathy completely shatters awkward tension. It builds immense trust and automatically positions you as the most confident, engaging person in the room.
Now, of course, breaking years and years of social conditioning definitely takes practice. The source material actually notes that making these frame breaks automatic can be achieved through a 30-day program they offer called Charisma University. The whole idea is that by taking small, daily actions over the course of a month, radiating this kind of situational confidence becomes completely second nature, rather than something you have to actively force yourself to do.
But hey, you definitely don't have to wait 30 days to start experimenting with this. So I want to leave you with a question to carry into the rest of your day. Which unspoken frame will you step outside of today? Whether it's acknowledging a shiny thing in your very next meeting or opening the circle to a complete stranger in line for coffee, take that small social risk. You might just be amazed at how much fun you start having. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.